My father is leaning back in his chair at the head of the supper table. The lamp is low, the plates are nearly empty, and he sets down his fork, and he looks at each of us in turn, and he says the words I would carry for the rest of my life. "It is not what you earn," he says. "It is what you keep." I was 8 years old. I did not understand it. Not really. But I felt the weight of it, the way you feel a storm coming before you see the clouds. And here is the strange and wonderful thing. That man never earned much. He worked with his hands his whole life. He never set foot in a college. And yet he never owed a single soul a single dollar. He never missed a meal. And when he passed, he left behind more than men who made 10 times what he made. All of it from one quiet rule about money, taught at a dinner table, in words a child could understand. Picture that table for a moment. A simple wooden table, worn smooth in the middle from 40 years of elbows and plates. A kerosene lamp throwing a warm gold circle of light, the window black with night behind it. And a quiet man at the head of it with rough, clean hands folded in front of him, about to give his children the only inheritance he truly trusted, not money, the knowing of how money really works. Now you have felt it, haven't you? That tightness in your chest at the grocery store. The careful little arithmetic you do in your head as the cart fills up. The bills that come faster than the money. The statements you almost do not want to open. The sense that everybody is running and somehow never getting ahead, no matter how hard they work. Well, my father was never in that race. He had something most folks today have completely lost. And the saddest part of this whole story is that it did not take 100 years to disappear. It vanished in one generation, ours. We were handed the rule and we let it slip right through our fingers. I am going to take you back to that table tonight. I am going to give you the whole rule, piece by piece, exactly the way he taught it to us between the potatoes and the prayers. And the very last thing, the one thing my father did with money that I did not understand until the day we buried him, the thing that made me sit down on the back porch and weep, I have saved that for the end. So stay with me, because once you hear it, you will never look at a dollar the same way again. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, settle into your favorite chair, and let us go back to that warm kitchen together, you and I. And while you are getting comfortable, do me one small kindness. Tell me down in the comments what your own mother or father taught you about money. I would dearly love to know. I have a feeling some of you had a father just like mine. Let me give you the first piece of the rule. Number 1, pay yourself first. Now my father had a tin box, a plain little box that sat on the top shelf of the closet behind the winter hats. And on payday, before one bill was paid, before one thing was bought, he would take a few dollars out of that envelope of pay and put it in the tin box. I asked him once why he did that first, before he paid the man at the feed store. And he looked at me and said, "Son, everybody else gets in line for my money. The light company, the grocer, the tax man. If I do not get in that line first, there is nothing left when it gets to me. Pay yourself first, before anyone else, even if it is only a little." I can still see his hands doing it, those rough, careful hands, folding 2 or 3 bills small and tucking them into that tin box before the rest of the money ever touched the table. It was the first thing he did, not the last, never the last, because he knew, the way you know a hard truth in your bones, that if you wait to save what is left over, there is never anything left over. Life is hungry. It eats every dollar you set in front of it. We have it backwards now. We pay everybody else first, the whole long line of them, and we promise ourselves we will save whatever survives, and nothing ever does. So flip it around. Put a little aside first, this very payday, off the top, before a single bill, before a single want, even a few dollars. Then live on the rest. That one small change, that one flip, is where the whole rule begins. Number 2, and this is the heart of it, the words he said at the table that night. It is not what you earn, it is what you keep. Folks chase a bigger paycheck their whole lives, thinking that is the answer. My father knew better. He had a neighbor, a fellow named Earl, who made twice what my father made, drove a finer car, and Earl was broke every single month, white-knuckled borrowing against next week. Earl makes a river of money, my father said, shaking his head, and not a drop of it stops at his house. That stuck with me. A river of money and none of it stays. You can earn a fortune and keep nothing. Or you can earn a modest, honest wage and keep enough to sleep easy every night of your life. It was never about the size of the river. It was about the size of the pond you dug to catch it. I remember the day poor Earl's fine car got hauled away. We watched from the porch, my father and I, as the man came and took it back, because Earl had never really owned it at all. He had only rented it from the bank one nervous month at a time. And my father did not gloat, not one bit. He just shook his head slow and sad, and he said something I have never forgotten. That car was never his, son. It owned him. Then he went inside, to a house that was fully his, free and clear, and he slept like a baby. The flashy man on the outside was the frightened man on the inside, and the quiet man with the patched coat had the only thing that ever mattered, peace, real, paid-for peace. Number 3, buy at once. My father would not buy the cheap thing. This surprises people because he was the most careful man with a dollar I ever knew, but he understood something we have forgotten. He would save up and buy one good pair of boots, real leather, stitched well, and resole them for 20 years. The cheap boot, he'd say, tapping the toe of his old ones, you buy that one 3 times. The good boot, you buy once and bury it with me. And he very nearly did. We buy cheap now, throw it out, buy it again, and we call that saving money. It is the most expensive way to live there is. Buy good, buy once, take care of it, and it will take care of you far longer than the bargain ever could. Number 4, give every dollar a job before it leaves your hand. My mother kept envelopes in the kitchen drawer, one for the rent, one for the coal, one for the doctor when the doctor was needed. And on payday the money got divided up right there at the table into those envelopes, each one labeled in her careful hand. When an envelope was empty, the spending stopped. There was no wondering where the money went. The money had its orders before it ever got loose. You can do this tonight, with real envelopes or just plain jars on a shelf. Decide where every dollar is going before it has a chance to wander off on its own. Money with no instructions, my father said, always finds the door. Number 5, never owe a man. Now this one my father held almost sacred. He hated debt the way some men hate a snake in the barn. To him, owing money was a kind of slavery, a rope around your neck that another man held the end of. When you owe somebody, he told me, you are not a free man. You work the first part of every day for him, not for you. The only thing he ever borrowed for was the little house, and he paid it off years early. And I will never forget the day he burned that paper in the wood stove. He stood there in front of the open stove door, the orange light flickering on his face, and he watched that paper curl up and turn to ash, and he had tears standing in his eyes. This man who never cried. And he said it soft, almost to himself. Now I own my front door. He had us all gather round to watch it burn. He wanted us to remember it. He wanted us to feel what it was to be free of owing, to stand in a house that no one could ever take, and I am sitting here all these years later still feeling it. We have made debt as normal as breathing now. We owe on the house, the car, the furniture, the very phone in our pocket. We have made a whole life out of owing and called it living. My father would be heartbroken to see it. To him, the burning of that paper was the proudest day of his working life, prouder than any raise, prouder than any purchase, the day he owed no man anything. Now, I told you I would get to the thing he did that I did not understand until the end. I have not forgotten. We are getting closer to it with every lesson, and I promise you, it ties all of these together in a way that gave me chills. But first, let me say this. If these words are stirring something in you, if you can almost hear your own father or grandfather in them, then do me a kindness and subscribe and pull up a chair here. This little channel is just a gathering of folks who remember when things were done the honest way, and we would be glad to have you at the table. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. Number 6. Sleep on it before you buy it. My father had a rule for anything that was not food or a true necessity. You waited. If you saw something you wanted, you went home, and you slept on it, sometimes for a week or more, and he used to laugh and say, "Half the things you want on Monday, you have forgotten by Friday." And he was right. So much of what we buy is just a feeling that passes, if we only give it the chance to. The store wants you to buy it right now, this minute, before the feeling fades, because they know the secret too. They know if you wait, you will not want it. So wait. Let the wanting cool off. What is left after a week is usually something you truly need. The rest was just weather passing through. Number 7. Keep your wants small. This is a quiet one, but maybe the deepest. My father was a contented man, not because he had everything, but because he wanted little. He had his garden, his pipe on the porch in the evening, his family around the table. A man who learns to want what he has, he said one summer night, rocking slow on that porch, is the richest man in the county, and it does not cost him a dime. We live in a world now that is built every single day to make you want more, to make you feel that what you have is not enough, that you are not enough. My father simply did not play that game, and his peace was something money truly cannot buy. Number 8. Always keep a rainy day store. There was a second tin box. This one was never touched, not for anything ordinary. It was the rainy day money, and my father guarded it like a hen guards her eggs. Because he had lived through hard times, real ones, and he knew that trouble always comes, not if, when. The roof leaks, the body gets sick, the work dries up. The rain comes to every roof, son, he told me. The only question is whether you saved up an umbrella. When his own hard season came, and it did, the winter the work dried up and the snow piled against the door, that quiet box meant we never once went without, while families all around us were falling apart at the seams. I did not even know, as a boy, that times were hard. That was the gift of it. The rain was falling, and we had our umbrella, and the children never had to feel the cold of it. A cushion, a buffer, even a small one. It is the difference between a bad month and a ruined year. It is the difference between a setback you recover from and a catastrophe you never quite climb out of. Start one this week, no matter how small. A jar, an envelope, a separate little account. The rain is coming to your roof, too. It always does. The only question my father ever asked was whether you would be ready for it. Number 9. Do not show it. And here is where his rule earned its name, the quiet rule. Because my father believed money should be silent. You never flashed it. You never bragged. You never bought a thing just so the neighbors could see you had it. The folks with the loudest cars and the finest clothes, he noticed, were so often the ones drowning underneath it all. Real security, he said, makes no noise at all. Let them think you have nothing, he would say with a little wink, and you will be the only one on the street who can sleep at night. True wealth was quiet. It did not need an audience. It did not need a single soul to know it was there. It just sat there, calm and safe, in a tin box behind the winter hats, asking nothing, proving nothing, simply waiting to take care of his family when the day came that they needed it. And come to think of it, that was my father all over. Quiet, steady, worth far more than he ever let on. The richest man on our whole street, and you would never once have guessed it to look at his patched coat and his old boots. That was the rule, lived in a man. Not loud, not flashy, just solid all the way through. Number 10. Talk about it at the table. Now this is the one we have lost most completely, and it grieves me. In my house, money was not a secret. It was not shameful. It was discussed openly and humbly right there at supper in front of the children. We knew what things cost. We knew why we waited, why we saved, why we did without. We learned the rule by hearing it night after night the way you learn a song. Today, families will talk about anything but money. It has become the one forbidden subject, and so the children grow up knowing nothing, learning it all the hard way, out in the cold. My father taught us at the table because he knew that a thing not taught is a thing lost. He did not leave the most important lesson of a life to chance, or to a school that would never teach it, or to a world that profits when you never learn it. He taught it himself, at his own table, with the lamp low and the plates cleared, in plain words, over and over, until it was part of us. Money is not a dirty word in this house, he would say. Not knowing about it, that is the dirty thing. That is what keeps a man poor. And oh, how right he was. A child who grows up hearing how money really works has a map for the rest of his life. A child kept in the dark has to wander and stumble and learn it all by falling down. If there are little ones in your life, talk to them. At the table, plainly. It may be the richest thing you ever hand them. Before I give you the last of it, let me ask you something, friend. Are you the only one left in your family who remembers being taught this way? Because if you are not alone, and there are more of us here than you would think. Subscribe and stay a while, so these old good lessons do not disappear for good on our watch. That is the whole reason I sit here and tell you these things. Now, let me give you number 11, because it surprises people. Number 11. Give some of it away. You would think a man so careful would cling to every penny, but my father always gave some away. A little to the church, a little to the family down the road when their barn burned. A few dollars pressed quietly into a struggling hand, with a whisper of, "Now do not tell anybody." He believed that money held too tightly went sour like still water. It has to move a little, he said, or it stops being any good to anybody, including you. And the curious thing is, the most generous man I ever knew was also the most secure. The giving and the keeping were not enemies. They were two halves of the same open, honest heart. Number 12. Cash on the barrelhead. My father had a horror of buying things on time, paying a little every month, with a little extra piled on top for the privilege. To him that was a trap with a smile painted on it. If you cannot pay cash for it, he said, then you cannot afford it. You have only fooled yourself into thinking you can. I can still see him counting out worn bills at the hardware store counter, slow and deliberate, licking his thumb, laying each one down flat. When the money was gone, the shopping was done. There was a wall there, a real one, that a credit card quietly tears down. A man who pays cash feels every dollar leave his hand. A man who pays on time feels nothing until the bill comes due, and by then it is too late. Pay cash where you can. Feel the weight of it. It will make you a wiser spender overnight. Number 13. Mend it before you toss it. By the back door there was a basket. The mending basket, my mother called it, and it was never empty. A sock with a hole in the heel did not go in the trash. It got darned, with a wooden egg slipped inside and a needle moving slow under the lamp. A loose button got sewn back on. A torn seam got stitched. We are not too poor to buy new, my mother would say, but we are too smart to throw away good. That line, we are too smart to throw away good. We live in a world now that throws away the whole shirt over a single missing button. The old folks kept things alive with a needle and a little patience, and every mend was a few dollars that stayed in the family. Learn to fix the small things. It adds up to more than you would ever guess. Number 14. A skill in your hands is money no one can take. My father could do nearly anything. He could fix the fence, patch the roof, coax a dead engine back to life, grow half of what we ate. And every one of those skills was money that never had to leave the house. They can take your job, son, he told me once, both of us up to our elbows in a stubborn old motor. They can take your savings, they can take the roof over your head. But what you know how to do with your two hands, that is yours till the day you die. A skill is wealth that lives inside you. The more you can do for yourself, the less the world can charge you for. Learn one new thing you have always paid someone else to do. It will pay you back for the rest of your life. Number 15. Know your numbers. My father kept a little notebook, the cover soft and curled from his shirt pocket. And in it, in pencil, in his careful block letters, he wrote down what came in and what went out. Not fancy, just honest. He knew, to the dollar, where he stood, always. A man who does not count his money, he said, does not really have any. He just has some passing through. Most folks today have no idea where their money goes. It just slips away, a little here, a little there, like water through cupped hands. But you cannot fix what you will not look at. Write it down for 1 month. Every dollar in, every dollar out in a plain little notebook. What you learn will shock you, and it will be the first step to taking the reins back. Now, I have kept you waiting long enough. Let me tell you the thing my father did that I did not understand until the day we laid him to rest. When he passed, my mother handed me a small, worn passbook from the bank, soft at the corners from years of handling, and I opened it, expecting very little, because I knew what he had earned. But the pages told a story I had never known. For 40 years, every single week, without fail, in good times and in lean ones, my father had walked into that bank and deposited a small amount. Never a large sum, just a little. The same little, week after week, decade after decade. In weeks when there was almost nothing, he still went $1, $2, but he never, ever missed a week. 40 years of a man quietly keeping his own rule when no one was watching, when no one would ever know. I sat at my mother's kitchen table and turned those soft pages one by one, and the dates marched back through the decades in his careful pencil. There was the deposit from the week I was born. There was one from the winter the work dried up, when I knew now that there had been almost nothing, and still there it was, a single dollar, faithfully set down. He had gone to that bank in his good coat through rain and snow and grief and joy, week after week after week, for 40 years, and told not a soul, not even me. And that small, faithful trickle, given all those years to grow, had become something I could scarcely believe. It was not the size of any single deposit that did it. It was the not stopping, the steadiness, the quiet, stubborn faithfulness of a man who decided, young, what kind of man he would be, and then simply was that man every week for the rest of his life. That was the secret underneath all the others. Pay yourself first, keep what you earn, never owe, want little. All of it came down to this: do the small right thing over and over, and never stop. The miracle was never in the amount, it was in the never stopping. I sat down on the back porch with that little passbook in my hands, the same porch where he had rocked and smoked his pipe 1,000 summer evenings, and I wept, not from grief alone, from understanding. He had been teaching me the whole time. Every lesson at that table, every one of them, was just this one lesson, wearing different clothes. Pay yourself first was this. Keep what you earn was this. Never owe, want little, do not show it. All of it was this: the small right thing done faithfully forever. And I had been handed it freely, on a silver platter, night after night at that supper table, and I had very nearly let it slip right through my fingers. And that, friend, is the saddest part of this whole story, and the reason I am sitting here telling it to you tonight, because it was not just me, It was almost all of us. A whole generation was handed this quiet rule by mothers and fathers who had earned it the hard way, through depressions and wars and lean winters, and somewhere along the line we set it down and walked away from it. We decided the old ways were behind us. We learned to want more, to owe more, to show more, to keep less. And in doing that, in just one single generation, we very nearly lost something it took our people 100 years of hardship to learn. Gone. Just like that. Not stolen, set down, forgotten by us, but it is not too late. That is what I want you to hear tonight more than anything. It is not gone, not really. Not as long as one of us still remembers it and passes it on. You do not need to earn a fortune. You do not need to be clever, or lucky, or young. You only need to do the small right thing this week and then do it again next week, and never stop. Pay yourself first. Keep more than you spend. Owe no one. Want little. And put a little away faithfully when no one is watching. That is the whole quiet rule. It fit on a dinner table. It can fit in your life, starting tonight. My father has been gone a long time now, but every time I set a little aside, every single time, he is right there at the head of the table, leaning back in his chair, the lamp low, looking at me with those steady eyes. It is not what you earn. It is what you keep. So, let me ask you, and I truly do read every reply. What is the one lesson about money that your mother or your father taught you? The one that has stayed with you all these years? Share it down below, where the next person can read it and carry it forward too. That is how we keep it alive. That is how we make sure it does not vanish in our generation the way it so nearly did. And if sitting here at this table with me brought back the sound of someone you loved, if it made you miss them or made you proud of where you came from, then subscribe and stay a while, pull up a chair. There is always room at this table, and there is always another story coming. Go set a little aside tonight, will you? Even if it is only $1, and do it for him and for the part of you that still remembers. Take good care of yourself, and do not you forget. Now, it is not what you earn, it is what you keep.